Hey everybody, welcome on our channel. In this video we are gonna see, what if Naruto got expelled by Jedi and got Harem? Part 4. If you are new on the channel, don't forget to subscribe our channel and like the video too. So without wasting any more time, let's start the story. Naruto Uzumaki was known for being energetic and having a happy-go-lucky type of attitude. However, the blonde had changed over the past couple of years. He'd become a good deal colder, not too willing to mingle with his fellow Jedi, other than those he already knew. He had become uninterested in many things and had become more subdued. Naruto seemed to have finally learned the ways of the Jedi by becoming emotionally detached, but to some this was a concern. He's at it again. I see. Master Plo Koon spoke as he stroked his mask, watching his old Padawan duel once again with Siri. His movements ruthless and faster than thought, the luminous whirl of his blade was almost blinding to Siri, who was having a hard time at keeping up with his mad, relentless assault. Strong he is, but sense something wrong, I do, Master Yoda said as Plo Koon nodded. Naruto's change of attitude was quite concerning to the two, more so to Plo Koon, who saw Naruto as a son he never had. I need to go faster. Once I'm able to overwhelm her defenses with raw speed, then I can practice on getting my technique up to par. Naruto thought as he quickly brought his saber down for a strike, or rather 5, before quickly ducked down to avoid Siri's own saber. Using that opportunity, he kicked Siri in the leg, causing her to fall, but not before she used the force to regain her balance and kicked him away with her other leg. Wow, calm down will ya? Siri questioned as Naruto Simple stood up, saber in hand as he dusted away some dirt as he deactivated his saber. His mind was somewhere else right now. Siri frowned as she deactivated her saber, watching him leave. She gritted her teeth as she followed him. Why is he becoming such an fast? Hey. What's wrong with you? She questioned as she caught up to him. Naruto grunted as he kept on walking. Nothing's wrong with me. Naruto answered as Siri rolled her eyes. That was a lie. Really? Because what I saw back there was not the Naruto I have known. Well, fast and strong, your strikes were sloppy. Something is definitely wrong. Siri stated as she walked beside him as the two walked through the hallways. Naruto rolled his eyes as he suddenly stopped and looked back at her. I'm fine, Siri. Just a little tired, as all. Naruto answered as he turned to corner, leaving standing in the hall, a redness on her furrowed brow as she brought her hands up to her heart. You're not fine. Why did you start lying to me? She whispered. Something was wrong with him and she would find out one way or another. With Master Yoda and Plo Koon. Uncertain, his future is. Yoda stated as Plo Koon sighed. I was under the impression that it was always uncertain. Plo Koon countered as Yoda hummed. The fox creature within his seal was a mysterious creature that was seemingly powerful in the dark side. What little bit of its power Naruto had used in the past sent shivers down Master Yoda's spine. Responsible, the fox might be. Yoda suggested, stating that the QB might be the reason behind Naruto's sudden change in attitude. Plo Koon hummed as he wondered if that was the case. The beast does give off hate, more hate than that of a Sith. Plo Koon responded. When Naruto had used the fox's power in the past, Jedi more attuned to the force had been able to feel its hate throughout the galaxy, yet surprisingly, they didn't feel any foul or evil element within the fox as well. But? Master Yoda questioned Plo Koon, who frowned a bit. The fox is a being made up of chakra. Like the force, it is alive, but also like the force, it is a construct of an energy. I could not feel the darkness, one that would be associated with the dark side, within the QB, only hate. As such, I believe that the QB isn't necessarily a being of evil, but anger. The dark side utilizes anger, but anger itself isn't the dark side. Plo Koon answered as Yoda hummed. It was a sound argument, but if that was the case, then why had Naruto's attitude changed so drastically? Meditate on this, I feel I must. Yoda said as Plo Koon nodded, watching the Grand Master hobble off to his quarters, leaving Plo Koon to his own devices. But Naruto. Naruto sighed as he entered his room, which was Spartan other than a few pictures. Walking into it, he felt a familiar tug at his mind. Wasting little time, he sat down in the center and closed his eyes as he began to do some breathing exercises, and the world around him suddenly grew cold, damp, and dark. What do you want, fox? Naruto spoke to the large fox that appeared before him in his soar-like mindscape. You have been harmed, he heard someone whisper in a chilling voice. It was a soothing voice, but at the same time it sounded deadly. No, I'm perfectly fine. Naruto grumbled as the voice chuckled, causing Naruto to frown. Oh, but you're not. There is so much anger in you, the voice spoke as Naruto's frown grew. Shut up, Kurama. Naruto grit the last word through his teeth, this time causing the voice to growl back at hearing his name. Naruto's surroundings began to change as he opened his eyes, finding himself in her room. In it, he could see himself and her, arguing. What do you mean, Padme? Breaking up? Naruto questioned as she frowned. Naruto, we are two different people from two different worlds. You're a Jedi, attachments are forbidden within the order. And I'm a senator, it could harm both of us if we're found out. Think of the political ramifications if the public were to know. She answered as Naruto frowned at her reasoning. This is about the order. You already know how I feel about that rule, and so what if the public were to know? Aren't we enough? I care about you too much to care about other stuff like that. Naruto questioned as he hugged the woman, who in turn pushed him away. No Naruto, it can't work. My terms as a senator are limited. Eventually my income will disappear and we'll have nothing to live on. And if the GD will expel you from the order, then your dream will be just that, a dream. She spoke, turning around. Naruto's hands formed into a fist as he turned and began to leave. So be it, Senator. Naruto spoke as he left in anger and tears. I'm over that, you stupid fox. Naruto spoke as he watched the whole event play out, like it was a movie. However, the voice chuckled at his response. Oh really? Then why does your heart ache at the mere mention of her? Why is there still anger? Resentment? Your spars with that sister of yours have grown laughable. Just when I thought you might be a capable fighter. The voice questioned as Naruto narrowed his eyes, now he knew what this was. You cannot lure me like you have lured so many. Naruto stated as the voice continued to chuckle. I do not need to lure you, Naruto, you will come to me, willingly. If you continue on this path, you will fall to the dark side and it will be all the easier for me to break free. The voice whispered before Naruto's eyes shot open, finding himself back in his room. He sighed as he stood up and began to head out to clear his mind. Ah, why do you even miss that wench? He heard a voice in his head as he sighed once more. She was my first love, Naruto thought as the voice in his head scoffed. First love? She betrayed you if you didn't notice. Besides, there are plenty of other fish in the sea. Literally. You could find some nice Korean girl, and the voice in his head stated as Naruto cut him off in annoyance. Enough. Why are you even talking to me? Shouldn't you be sleeping? Or telling me how you're going to escape and go on a rampage against everyone? Naruto questioned the voice in his head. Why was the fox getting so chatty these days? You are my container, and I will not have container become a lovesick fool. Before that woman, you were a powerful warrior. People feared you. The fox answered as Naruto rolled his eyes. Only bounty hunters. Naruto reasoned as he kept walking aimlessly around the temple, like he had no purpose or destination. Be that as it may be, you're still a powerful warrior. And now? Now you almost lose to your sister. You have grown weak, weaker than even those foolish shinobi back home. You keep lying to yourself saying that you're just trying to speed up your technique, but we both know that isn't the reason you lost today. The fox said with a chuckle as Naruto frowned. Home. He had never considered his homeworld as a home. The temple had been more of a home to him than that village. The GD were more of a family to him than the people back him, and that was saying a lot given that GDs rarely, if at all, form attachments. Whatever. I'm not about to fall to pieces or anything over that damn woman, Naruto stated as he kept on walking. Maybe he should visit Master Yoda for some missions. Master Uzumaki, the council has summoned you. Naruto was broken out of his thoughts as he turned to face a temple guard who simply turned around and began to leave once the message was delivered. Naruto nodded to the retreating guard as he began to head to the council chambers, wondering what exactly the council had summoned him for. A few minutes later. Naruto entered the chambers and quickly looked around, spotting the council members present, spotting his former masters sitting in their chairs as well. In the center was Kenobi and his Padawan Skywalker. Naruto narrowed his eyes as he walked up to the middle and bowed slightly. I was told that the council summoned me. Naruto questioned as Master Yoda nodded. Summoned you, we have. Yoda answered as Naruto stood in attention, hands behind his back as he switched into a more professional stance. Those masters who had trained him frowned slightly at his behavior. A few years ago, they would have been pleased with his discipline, however, after they had understood him thought training him, they had realized that Naruto's strength derived from his emotions. An oddity considering that emotions lead to the dark side, yet Naruto seemed to be an exception to that. In fact, it seemed to be the exact opposite for the blonde. The more reclusive he became, the chances of him falling to the dark side increased. The blonde thrived on emotions, taking them away would destroy him. Senator Amidala of Naboo was recently targeted in an attack, thankfully, only her bodyguards and her double were killed in the attack. Mace Windu began as a stinging sensation coursed through Naruto. He frowned and did his best to quash the brief moment of heartache. Another attack. A few other senators had also been targeted, but now Padme. And why Padme of all people? Do we know who it is that's behind all of it? Anakin questioned, hiding his worry for the senator as Mace Windu shook his head. No, however, these attackers are getting bolder by the day. At first, they were discreet, but now they are becoming more open and violent. Kit Fisto answered as Plo Koon stroked his mask. Senator Amidala has led the opposition to the creation of an army to oppose the Separatist alliance. Plo Koon stated as Naruto frowned. Do you think Count Dooku is behind this attack? Anakin questioned the council, while Kenobi sided Anakin's questioning. No, Dooku was once an esteemed Jedi. He mentored Kenobi's master, and killing in such underhanded way is not in his character. Not to mention, why would he kill the most moderate senator of the bunch? If Padme dies, war won't follow much later. Naruto countered as the others nodded. Well spoken, Uzumaki, but unfortunately the senator agrees that Count Dooku is the culprit. At this present moment, we cannot confirm these suspicions, however, it has come to our attention that the senator would require more protection, the Order's protection. May stated as Anakin stepped forward. Then allow Master Obi-Wan and I to pursue her assassins, while we also continue protect her. Anakin requested as Yoda hummed. No, Master Windu cut in. You are to protect the senator from further attacks and nothing more. May seemed very adamant about Anakin not getting involved with the pursuit. Why? Anakin's retort was unexpected and laced with venom, abruptly bringing the attention of the shocked Jedi masters to him. Protection is a job for local security, not Jedi. Why assign Jedi to protect her if not to find out who's trying to kill her? Master Uzumaki was allowed to pursue them in the past. 8 years ago, when the Federation plotted another assassination attempt, if I remember correctly. A point you raise, Skywalker. Excessive, the protection of 2 Jedi may be. Nevertheless, Master Naruto has protected very valuable clients from far greater danger. I fear his skill, required may be, to protect young Senator Amidala from these unknown threats. Yoda started, hinting to Naruto's past in dealing with these types of assignments. Naruto hearing this perked up, maybe this mission would allow him and Padme to reconnect. Agreed, Naruto would be more useful in finding the assassin. He has quite the record with the tracking down those who attempt the murder of senators. I am sure you recall his actions on Pantora. Master Rancisa stated in uncharacteristic confidence for the blonde as the others weighed their options. Naruto, on the other hand, seethed silently. Being reminded of Pantora reminded him of that bounty hunter. He'd met him only a couple of times since, but each encounter was a grating reminder of his biggest failure. He would defeat that bounty hunter, someday. Then Skywalker should continue as the senator's bodyguard with Master Kenobi's help. Naruto, you are to track the would-be killers. Shocked he proposed to Mace Windu nodded. Yes, with 3 well-trained Jedi, these assassins will be brought to justice swiftly. Mace Windu stated as the meeting was called to an end as Naruto bowed and turned to leave. Kenobi and Skywalker followed shortly after once Naruto had left. Naruto quickly made his way to his quarters and quickly grabbed whatever he needed and turned to leave. His mission had already begun. A few days later. Naruto looked through the macro binoculars as he spied on Padme's quarters from afar. He had set himself up in a nearby building in order to have a vantage point on his targets. He knew that the only way to catch the killer would be in action. If his hunch was true, then the ones who wanted Padme would use a bounty hunter this time. He sighed as he set the macro binoculars down and drank some water. Why did you end it? Naruto whispered sadly. He had been deeply hurt by Padme's decision to end their relation. He had shared many things with her, some of his secrets as well. He only wished that he could rekindle that spark the two had. However, he had his concerns, mainly Anakin Skywalker. He had started to believe that it was Skywalker who was the cause of his and Padme's breakup, but he had no proof, so it was just him blaming others. He shook his head as he turned his attention back to his mission. Who would want to kill Padme? Or any one of the moderates even? Naruto questioned. The opposition to an army for the Republic was quite large, as they thought that using violence against the Separatist alliance would only push the Separatists to use violence themselves, escalating the situation to a full-blown war. He sighed, even though he understood politics, he found them utterly frustrating. Why couldn't just deal with the problem rather than beating around the bushes? His eyes widened as he turned his head slightly left as a blaster bolt shot past him. Quickly turning around, he activated his saber, looking up at his would-be killer with narrowed eyes. His assailant was clad in a shiny silver armor that he had come to know quite well, Mandalorian. Thinking quickly, Naruto used a force and leaped into the air with great speed, fast enough to reach the level the Mandalorian was positioned. As soon as he landed, Naruto charged forward, his saber at the ready to attack, however, as he got close, the Mandalorian quickly sidestepped at the last second, causing Naruto to miss his target, but Naruto himself quickly turned to face the Mandalorian, sending a brutal punch right into the abdomen. The armor plating cracked as the Mandalorian was sent flying back, but not before Naruto quickly used the force and pulled the Mandalorian right back towards him, catching the Mandalorian by the neck with his hand. Naruto glared hard at the Mandalorian, who was gasping for air. Who hired you? Naruto questioned as he loosened his grip a bit, but the Mandalorian refused to answer. Naruto growled as he walked to the end of the building, and with his free hand, he destroyed the jetpack that the Mandalorian warrior was equipped with. I said, who hired you? Naruto questioned, hanging the Mandalorian off the edge of the building, who clawed at Naruto's hand, which only served to irate Naruto, who was already pretty mad. It seemed like he still cared for Padme, and he would catch her those who wanted her dead. The Mandalorian started as Naruto loosened his grip once more. Speak. Naruto stated as the Mandalorian took in some air before speaking again. Death Watch. The Mandalorian answered as Naruto frowned. Death Watch. He had never heard of an organization like that before. However, that was beside the point. He would find this organization and hunt them down. Let me go. The Mandalorian spoke as Naruto turned his attention back to the Mandalorian warrior, thinking over what he should do. A smirk formed on his face as his eyes for a brief moment flashed yellow. Let you go? Okay. Naruto answered as he let the Mandalorian fall down 3 stories onto a balcony below. Without even making sure the man had survived the fall, Naruto turned and began to head to his airspeeder he had parked nearby. He needed to get some information, and if Mandalorian's bounty hunters were after him, he knew he had to go to the source. Down below, the silver-clad Mandalorian grunted in pain as he stood up and activated his holocommunicator. This is Jango Fett, Uzumaki's taken the bait, you're clear Zam, said the bounty hunter. He quickly cut the communication after hearing Zam's confirmation on the other end and began a new transmission to another figure. This time, it was audio only. Lord Tyrannus, I've sent Uzumaki on his wild nerf chase, and Zam is moving in for the kill now. The senator is defenseless. This mission is all but complete. Jango said to his mysterious employer. Excellent work, Jango. Uzumaki will find his way to me in time. With any luck, he'll play into our hands just as he did on Pantora. The man known only as Tyrannus spoke with a deep voice. I must thank you again for lending me that armor again, it was a most effective disguise. Observe the situation until the mission is complete. If there are any complications, be sure to kill that partner of yours. We can't afford to have any loose ends. Yes sir. Oh, and that armor was no big deal. I like the kid. Let him keep it, will ya? Jango requested of his enigmatic benefactor. I'll give it a thought. Tyrannus out. And with that, the transmission cut and Jango gave a smirk. That Mandalorian kid he found over half a decade ago had certainly become one hell of a bounty hunter under Jango's tutelage. He didn't even need much training. Even if the kid didn't speak a lick of basic. But Padme, a few minutes later. It had been a stressful few days for Padme and even more stressful few years. After she had broken things off with Naruto, the guilt had eaten her from the inside. She had felt guilt about her actions, but she knew she couldn't undo what she had done, and this in turn caused a rift between her and Anakin. However, now here was Anakin once again, assigned as her bodyguard after the attack on her. Are you okay? Anakin questioned as he quickly looked out the shattered window. Just a few minutes ago, Padme was sleeping peacefully while Anakin and Obi-Wan were talking outside. However, they had sensed something off and quickly rushed inside, with Anakin leaping in action and killed the odd worm-like creatures near Padme on her bed, causing Padme to wake up startled, with Anakin sitting in her bed. She had quickly caught a glimpse of Obi-Wan jumping out of the window, grabbing onto something. Stay here, I'll go after Obi-Wan. Anakin said as he ran out to find the speeder and quickly went after Obi-Wan. The two were hot on the trail of the killer. With Naruto, a couple days later. Naruto's starfighter jumped out of hyperspace, Mandalore in his sights. Naruto smiled slightly, it had been years since he had been to Mandalore. The last time he was here, it was in a state of civil war, but now it was in a state of peace. His smile quickly receded as he guided the ship towards the capital of Mandalore. R7, got anything on the scanners? Naruto questioned. The astromech unit beeped, giving Naruto the answer. Naruto nodded at the answer, nothing. It seemed like everything was fine so far. He quickly gently landed the pilot on one of the landing pads. As he did so, security guards quickly approached his ship as he exited. Halt, state your business, stranger. One of the guards questioned as Naruto bowed slightly, showing he had no intentions of fighting. My name is Naruto Uzumaki, Jedi Knight of the Republic. I'm here on official business. Naruto spoke as the guards looked to one another in surprise as one of them walked up. It was clear that he was the leader of the small squad. You're the Naruto Uzumaki? He questioned as Naruto blinked and nodded. The guards cheered slightly, surprising Naruto even further. Am I missing something? Naruto questioned as the squad leader chuckled a bit. Sorry, but you're a bit of a hero here on Mandalore. He answered, once more surprising Naruto for the third time. What? Naruto questioned the man. Your actions were quite well known during the Civil War. Compared to the other Jedi, you made quite the impression on the people of Mandalore. One of the guards answered as Naruto chuckled nervously. Well, I wasn't that great, Naruto whispered as the squad leader of the guard chuckled. Nonsense. You were just a child back then, and you showed the greatest of fighting spirit. Your actions spoke for themselves. I heard from a few veterans how a 10-year-old kid used to lead entire battalions to sabotage enemy fortifications, despite your mission being only to defend. The squad leader stated as Naruto chuckled, those veterans must have been pulling his leg. He'd been part of a few attacks, sure, but he never had more than as an escort to the Duchess or her family. I would like to clear up a few things about the past, but I'm here on official business. I need to speak with the Duchess quickly. Naruto said as the squad leader of the group nodded and directed him to a small speeder. Hopping on board, Naruto observed the city as he was led to the palace where the Duchess was located. Last time I was here, this city was a war zone. Naruto commented as the guard nodded. Indeed, but thanks to the Duchess, we were able to restore order and rebuild in no time. The guard responded as Naruto hummed over that information. Well, she was quite the charismatic leader as far as I can remember. Naruto added as the guard nodded as the transport stopped at the royal palace, where the Duchess was located. As he did so, he noticed that there was much in terms of security, other than the guards, but they weren't all that well armed if there was a serious attack. Entering the palace building, he recognized someone from the past. Captain Mikkel's son Naruto questioned as the man slightly bowed to the blonde Jedi. It's Director Mikkel's son now. I'm the Duchess's new head of public safety. Son corrected him as Naruto's eyes blinked, by the force how time flies. I guess you got promoted to a desk job. Naruto informed him as the man grunted and rolled his eyes, acting as if he hated the job. Follow me, the Duchess was informed of your arrival. Son stated as Naruto raised an eyebrow. Naruto silently began to follow the advisor to where the Duchess was located. Entering the chambers, Naruto spotted Satine, sitting in her chair at the far end of the room. Major Naruto Uzumaki, Jedi Knight of the Republic. Son announced as Naruto bowed before he walked up to the frowning Satine. Duchess. Naruto greeted with a bow as Satine raised her right hand, silencing Naruto before he could go any further. What is the reason for the Jedi order to send a Jedi to Mandalore? More specifically, why you? She questioned with harsh vitriol as Naruto raised an eyebrow. He expected many different things, but not one of them was her being this hostile. Whoa, Satine. What's with the third degree? Have you forgotten how I helped you? Your people? Naruto questioned, trying to find out why she was so angry. I am the Duchess of Mandalore and you will address me as such. Nonetheless, I have not forgotten what you did for Mandalore, but Mandalore is a neutral system. We want nothing to do with the squabbles between the Republic or the so-called Separatist Alliance. She answered, but he knew that there was something else other than maintaining Mandalore's neutrality. Oh, so that's what it is. No, Satine, I'm not here for the reasons you assume. No, I am here because the life of one Senator Padme Amidala is in danger, along with many of the opposition party. Naruto answered as Satine frowned. Padme was an old friend of her. Not only that, but Naboo and Mandalore had close business ties. And for what reason does your visit here help her? Satine questioned, wondering why exactly he was here. Her initial thoughts were that he was here for Bo. He had caused enough damage to her younger sister. She had already left Mandalore a few years ago. I was instructed by the council to investigate and pursue her. I came under attack from an assassin, one who was no doubt targeting Senator Amidala. I confronted the assassin, who wore Mandalorian armor and used weapons of Mandalorian origin. Naruto answered as Satine narrowed her eyes. So, you believe that Mandalore, that I, would send out an assassin to kill a close friend of mine? Satine questioned, how dare he accuse her of something like that? Naruto, however, sweat dropped at her jumping to assumptions with reckless abandon. No, I'm here because when I asked the Mandalorian who hired him, he gave me a name that I can't make sense of. Naruto stated, causing the Duchess to halt her anger as she raised an eyebrow. Maybe it wasn't the worst case scenario she was thinking of. And the name? She questioned, not knowing she was about to get a massive headache. Watch. Naruto answered as Satine's eyes widened. This was possible one of the worst case scenarios she was thinking of. Are you sure? She questioned him with seriousness as Naruto nodded, already learning the fact that Satine knew something. And judging from your reaction, you definitely know something. Naruto stated as Satine kept quiet before she sighed. There was no point in avoiding the question. If Naruto was the same as he was all those years ago, he would see his task through to the end. Watch, they are an extremist organization that wants Mandalore to return to the old ways. They want Mandalore to embrace its warrior past. Its past of ceaseless war and violence. Satine answered as Naruto frowned at that. So, this is some sort of splinter group that formed after the Civil War? Naruto questioned, wondering if all that work he did all those years ago was a waste. Regardless, he had a task, one which he considered the most important one in his life right now. No, they aren't a splinter group. When the Civil War ended, Mandalore was in a state of peace, but some didn't like it. They wanted me to sanction a military for Mandalore, along with a navy to go along with it. However, I denied their request, stating that it would only lead to violence in the future. Apparently, they took that as a sign that I want to erase the history of warriors past, which I do not, but I will not rear Mandalore. Satine stated. To remain true to Mandalore's neutrality and pacifistic ways, she would not allow the creation of an army or a navy. I see, and do you know where they are located? Naruto questioned. If Satine knew this much, she at least might have some information regarding their movements. Sadly, I do not know much about their movements. However, Sun can help you with that. Satine stated, motioning toward Sun, who nodded with a determined look as he stepped forward. Our intelligence tracked some unregistered vessels entering and leaving the system. We lose them shortly after, but judging from calculated hyperspace vectors and the orientation of the ships, we suspect that the point of destination is Concordia. Sun answered as Naruto raised an eyebrow. How do you lose track of ships within your own system? Naruto questioned as Sun suppressed a growl. Mandalore doesn't have a navy to properly enforce our own borders. Not only that, but it seems like some of the data is being erased from the records. Sun answered as Naruto hummed. So, there's a spy in your midst, huh? Naruto commented as he began to walk out. Where are you going? Satine questioned as Naruto turned to look at her. Concordia, obviously. To find Death Watch. Also, I really suggest you invest in a navy. I know you're a pacifist and all, and that's a noble aspiration, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be prepared to protect yourselves. Even Jedi carry a lightsaber, and sometimes to preserve peace you must be willing to fight. Naruto's words cut deep and Satine was broiling. How dare he, a Jedi, question her methods? Naruto left immediately after that, leaving her unable to formulate an angry response. Yet she was also brooding. The situation was growing quite dire, with nearly 10,000 systems having left the Republic, they posed a serious threat to galactic peace. If this situation with the Separatist Alliance continues to escalate, we might be facing all-out galactic war. We need to make sure our borders are safe from the likes of pirates and vagabonds. Or at least to be able to know who travels in and out of the system. Death Watch may seek outside help in overthrowing you. Duchess Minister Mickle's son wasted no time in exploiting the Duchess's mixed feelings. A stronger navy would give him more power in the cabinet, which he could use to convince the Duchess to allow for an even bigger military. He had not fought for Mandalore to simply watch it go down in flames barely a decade later. But Naruto. Naruto sighed as he entered his starfighter. His astromech beeped angrily. Yeah, sorry for being late. Naruto said to the astromech unit as he slowly took the starfighter up and headed towards the moon of Mandalore, Concordia. Concordia was once filled with rolling forests, however, excessive mining led to deforestation to supply the Mandalorian war machines in the past. However, under the Duchess decree, mining was forbidden on Concordia. That Mandalorian's armor looked shiny, it was new armor. Expensive armor. Naruto thought over the little details. The mines of Concordia might not be as abandoned as people assumed. Gently landing his fighter, he began to head out into the forests of Concordia. But the council. It seems that a Mandalorian bounty hunter by the name of Jango Fett was hired to kill the senator. Mace Windu said as the council had gathered quickly after Kenobi had sent a message from a far-off system called Kamino. Actually, the most interesting thing was that the system's location and information was purged from the Jedi archives, which was quite vast mind you. And where is Naruto in this? Plo Koon questioned. For some reason, all communication with Naruto was been blocked, and as such, they had no idea where he was. From what we know, Naruto's last report stated that he was on a lead to an organization that had sent an assassin to kill the senator. Shakti answered as Mace Windu narrowed his eyes. Did he state the name of this organization? Windu questioned as Shakti nodded. Naruto's report talked about an Mandalorian armor assassin, who only gave the name Death Watch. Shakti stated before Windu raised an eyebrow, that was a creative name. And what happened to the assassin? Mundi questioned as Shakti thought over her answer, conflicted on what she should say, but alas, she spoke the truth. He didn't say. She answered as much of the council looked at her, befuddled. Are you sure he didn't? Plo Koon questioned. This was quite worrying as Naruto knew what the orders were, to bring in any suspects for questioning, unless the situation went south. Naruto had subdued the suspect and just left him. It was concerning. We will talk about this to Uzumaki once he's back, but for now, we need to deal with our current situation. Windu spoke. Their current situation was quite unique. The senator was sent back to her home planet of Naboo with Anakin, as her guard undercover, Obi-Wan had just discovered the assassin, bounty hunter or whatever on a far-off system called Kamino. Not only that, but an army of clones was discovered by Kenobi, with the Kaminoans saying that the order for an army was put down by Master Sifo Dyas on the behalf of the council. The only problem? The order had never authorized such a deal to go through. And then there was Naruto, whose current location was unknown. Clouded by the dark side, the future is. Master Yoda spoke up as everyone turned to him. He had kept quiet for the most part, soaking in the information that was being thrown out, all of it disturbing him. Contact Obi-Wan, we must. To know his progress. Yoda advised. For now, they would get a hold of Obi-Wan and his progress regarding his mission. After that they would decide on what to do. I sense a plot to destroy the Jedi. Windu said as everyone looked at him with grim agreement. Yoda frowned at that. There was something off about the whole thing. Why did Sifo Dyas put an order for a clone army? Why wasn't the council informed about this army earlier? On top of this, Sifo Dyas' death itself was quite mysterious. If Obi-Wan's hunch was right, however. They would need this army now more than ever. Go to Kamino, I will. Yoda said as everyone nodded. Now then, how do we get a hold of Master Uzumaki? I fear that he might be heading into a trap. Mace Windu questioned. This whole thing reeked like a trap and Naruto's foresight as of late was lacking. Obi-Wan was onto a solid lead, but Naruto was after a name. Not only that, but not even a person, but an organization from the sounds of it. What did Death Watch have to achieve by targeting the senator? The separatists had more motives than this unknown organization, whose motives remained unknown. Naruto will turn up soon. Trap or not, he's not so easily bamboozled. Kit Fisto answered as many of those who trained Naruto nodded. The young man was strong with the force, and even his own energy source was quite powerful in its own ways. Seeing that the majority had faith in Naruto, the council had come to a session as preparations needed to be made. Concordia. Abandoned, yeah right, the temple library is more abandoned than this. Naruto whispered as he walked through a supposedly abandoned mine, which looked more like a factory with all the weapons and armor laying around. A while ago, he had stumbled upon a supposed abandoned mine, which had a few speeder bikes parked outside of it. Knowing that something wasn't right, Naruto ventured off into the mine and discovered it to be in very good condition, odd for a mine that was abandoned years ago. Something isn't right here, Naruto frowned as he observed the armor, made from Mandalorian steel. Approaching some of the weapons, he narrowed his eyes as he looked at the thermal detonator, which was active and primed. Naruto didn't get to finish his curse as he was blown back by the explosive force of the detonator and slammed into one of the machines. He was lucky that he wasn't burned by the explosive weapon. So, you survived. Matters not, you die here, Jedi. He heard a voice, muffled by a helmet, before he began to hear the roar of jetpacks descending all around him. Relying on his four senses completely, Naruto ducked to avoid being decapitated. Thinking quickly, he kicked the offending Mandalorian right in the kneecap, causing the man to scream, before Naruto activated his saber and slashed it along the man's chest, causing him to fall back, dead. You must be Death Watch. Naruto spoke as he stood up and got into his stance, looking around at the Mandalorian warriors before him and then to the one he had killed. He heard chuckling as he spotted one Mandalorian whose armor was of different coloring. Yes, we are Death Watch, however, that information will die with you. The obvious leader of the group stated as Naruto narrowed his eyes, his saber at the ready, while his free hand hovered over his blaster. It was time to put his skills with the blaster to use. Then come at me. Naruto stated as four Mandalorians charged at him and began to fire their blasters as Naruto deflected most of them back, but the Mandalorians were able to dodge them. Seeing that blasters weren't going to work, they got close enough to engage in close quarters combat. You guys aren't very bright, are you? Naruto said rather coldly as he leaned back to dodge a punch before he quickly sidestepped to dodge a vibroblade. Quickly bringing the saber behind him, parallel to his body, he blocked an attack from behind. Seeing two Mandalorians before him, he quickly raised his blaster and fired at the two, killing them instantly. He wasted no time as he spun around another attacker and brought down his saber, striking at the Mandalorian's jetpack, causing the said warrior to fly off and hitting the ceiling. He then turned his attention to the 6 other Mandalorians not yet incapacitated. Their leader gave a fierce scowl that went unseen underneath his helmet. For what purpose did you attack the senator? Naruto questioned. He needed answers, and a dead body can't give you answers. The Mandalorian chuckled as Naruto frowned. The man had just lost 3 of his warriors and he just chuckles. I don't know what you're talking about. We never attacked no senator, the Mandalorian answered as Naruto blinked. He had expected something like revenge, orders, or something along those lines. He didn't expect him to straight up deny it. You're lying. Naruto questioned the man, who froze for a second and brought his hand up to his helmet side, a transmitter. The man nodded before he signaled to the others. Know this, Jedi, Mandalore will rise again, and the Duchess will not be able to stop the resurrection of the true Mandalore. The man yelled before he pressed a detonator, causing smoke to fill the whole underground facility. Naruto made a move to attack, but saw that his saber had hit nothing. As the smoke subsided, he saw that the whole area empty. Damn. He growled. They had gotten away. He would have looked around more in order to pursue them, but he began to hear beeping sounds all over the facility. Looking up at the ceiling, he saw thermal detonators, lots and lots of thermal detonators. He quickly turned and ran, heading out of the facility as explosions rocked the whole underground mine. He crushed as saw the exit to the mine starting to collapse. "Oh no, I am not dying to a cave-in," Naruto whispered as he brought his right hand back as he neared the exit, and just before he was a few feet from it, he shot the hand towards the exit, which was starting to cave in. This caused the rocks blocking the exit to be thrown out of the exit, clearing the path as Naruto shot out of the tunnel just before it all collapsed behind him. The instant he let up on his four senses, he stumbled over a rock and tripped head over ass. Double damn, Naruto groaned out as he righted himself and turned to look at the collapsed mine. Sighing, he decided that it was time to head back and report to the council, since he had lost a lead on the Mandalorian's warriors by alerting them. They would go further into hiding now that they knew that they were being pursued. Beginning the long trek back to his Delta 7 ether sprite, only to find the astromech unit beeping like crazy. "What do you mean that the order has tried to reach me 5 times? Naruto questioned the astromech, who in turn just beeped. Naruto groaned as he boarded his fighter and brought up the communication systems. "This is GD Knight Naruto Uzumaki, come in." Naruto spoke through his onboard communicator. No response. Frowning, he took notice that the systems had been sabotaged, prevent any sort of communications from being received, but also made to make sure it seemed like it was working on his side. "And you just now noticed this?" Naruto questioned as the astromech unit beeped a few more times as Naruto sighed. Thankfully, it didn't take long for the blasted droid to fix part of the communications array, and a holorecording of one Mace Windu appeared before him, and he was less than pleased. "Master Uzumaki, you are requested to return to the temple. Your mission to pursue the Senator's assassins is put on indefinite hold. We need you back here. Immediately. Please respond." Master Windu ordered before the transmission was cut. Naruto blinked before his face furled into a look that was part disgust, part amazement. "Oh, hey there Naruto. We tried to reach you 5 times. Are you okay?" Naruto mocked, briefly wondering if there was any concern for others in Mace Windu at all. Pressing a few buttons, he took the fighter up, heading back to the temple. Jumping out of hyperspace, Naruto's starfighter quickly made its way to the surface of Coruscant. It wasn't long ago that he was contacted by the GD Council and told to return as soon as possible. He had quickly made his way back since his lead back on Mandalore led to a dead end with Death Watch going dark shortly after their encounter. A complete waste of time. "R4, did you get anything?" Naruto asked his astromech. Prior to jumping into hyperspace, he asked his astromech to scan the Mandalore system as broadly as possible, wanting to know if he could catch any Death Watch ship sneaking in. The astromech beeped for a few seconds before Naruto sighed. Nothing. It seems like that Death Watch was quite elusive. Disappointed, he slowly parked his Delta 7 in the hangar. He quickly exited the fighter and began to head towards the council chambers. He noticed an unusual amount of GD preparing for a mission. Rarely were more than half a dozen GD sent on any one mission. "Look who's back." He heard Siri call out to him from the group. Turning about, he spotted a smirking Siri. "Well, not much I can do when the council summons me," Naruto countered as he turned around and resumed his walk towards the chambers. Siri frowned slightly as she jogged up to him and matched his pace. "They called you back. Do you know what for?" She questioned him hesitantly as Naruto hummed, choosing to ignore the worry in her voice. "Don't know, but odds are it's about the assassins," Naruto answered as Siri nodded at that. "Speaking about assassins, weren't you off chasing some?" She questioned him regarding his adventure, to which he sighed. "It was a false lead. Meant to be a wild goose chase, and I was the fool who fell for it," Naruto answered as Siri chuckled. "Well, you were pretty adamant about hunting them down. I know that Padme is a close friend," she reasoned as Naruto shook his head trying to hide his distress. "I am a GD Knight. Hell, I could even become a GD Master in a few years, and I was fooled by a false lead. I didn't wait to investigate further, I charged in without thinking," Naruto stated as they reached the door which led to the chamber. Siri sighed as she listened to Naruto. "True, but that is what makes you, well, you," Siri said as she turned to rejoin the large group of GD that seemed to be growing, leaving a confused Naruto. Was she implying that him rushing in was a good thing? He shook his head, right now there were more important matters. Taking a deep breath, the doors to the chamber opened, allowing Naruto in. As he looked around, he noticed that only Masters Windu and Mundi were waiting for him. "Master Uzumaki, I see that you have returned. Good." Windu spoke up as all attention turned to the blonde, who simply nodded. "Yes, I received your transmission," Naruto stated as he walked up and stood in the center. "Where's Master Yoda and well everyone?" Naruto questioned as Windu leaned forward a bit. "Master Yoda is away on an important political mission, however, it is Obi-Wan we need to discuss about," he answered as Naruto raised an eyebrow. "What happened this time?" "Kenobi?" he questioned as the master nodded. Master Kenobi has discovered something unpleasant. Master Mundi stated, causing Naruto to narrow his eyes. He had a bad feeling about this. Which is? Naruto questioned. He has discovered a droid army on the planet of Geonosis, however, we fear that he has been taken prisoner. Windu answered as Naruto's eyes slightly widened. A droid army? Like the Trade Federation had. And you want to send someone to save Kenobi? Naruto questioned, thinking they were going to send him. Wouldn't be the first time he was sent on a rescue mission. Yes and no. Windu answered, causing Naruto to raise an eyebrow. What was that supposed to mean? Not only has Obi-Wan likely been captured, but we've been unable to get into contact with young Skywalker and Senator Amidala. We fear they may have also been taken prisoner. Plo Koon elaborated a bit on the subject. Naruto narrowed his eyes further, this time in slight anger. Knowing Anakin, he probably rushed in to save Obi-Wan without thinking and led Padme into a war zone. Then we must act fast. Naruto proposed, but was silenced as Mace Windu raised a hand. And we will. Master Yoda has already left to acquire the means to carry out the rescue, but if Obi-Wan's reports were true, then Dooku is behind this army, and as such the Separatist Alliance are readying for war. Windu said as Naruto frowned grimly, it was the Trade Federation. And what does this all have to do with me? Naruto questioned as shocked he chose to speak this time. We must respond to the threat of force. The Jedi are defenders of the Republic. I will personally lead a team ahead to attempt to capture Count Dooku and end this war before it even begins. Windu stated as Naruto hummed. Is that what that massive team of Jedi was gathering for? Before he could get a word in, it was time for Master Mundi to speak up. You'll be joining us as part of the rescue team to save Senator Amidala and our Jedi comrades. Naruto looked at Coyote Mundi in shock. Are you sure? Surely there are other Jedi that are more skilled. Naruto reasoned as Windu shook his head. Your skill, notwithstanding, isn't the only thing that matters. Your experience in the chaos of war will be indispensable. Windu stated as Naruto nodded with a serious face. When do we leave? Naruto questioned as Windu smirked, knowing Naruto would be up for this task. Meet in this hangar in about an hour. From there, we head to Geonosis. Windu answered as Naruto nodded. This would be quite the battle, even for him. But masters, this is a highly dangerous mission. No, it's not just a mission anymore, this is literally going to be the first battle of a war. Just how many Jedi do we plan on sending? Naruto reasoned. There were about 10,000 Jedi in the order, but most of them were away on missions. Take away the Padawans and younglings, as well as the inexperienced knights, and there weren't many Jedi that had a chance of surviving on Geonosis. He might be experienced in the art of war, but that was on a smaller scale. This was going to be a planetary battle, an invasion. According to my count, over 200 knights and masters. A few Padawans who have shown exemplary skill have also been selected. Master Mundi finished. Naruto was dumbstruck. A force of only 200 Jedi would likely be slaughtered by the Trade Federation's army, which probably numbers in the millions by now. Naruto, you have shown great strength, valor, determination, tenacity, and so much more. You are more qualified than you think. Despite your unorthodox methods and general disregard for authority, you are a great Jedi Knight. I have no doubt you'll soon reach the rank of master. Go back to your quarters and ready yourself. We leave soon. Mace Windu ordered as Naruto dumbly nodded. Turning around, he exited the chambers heading to his quarters. You okay? Siri questioned as he looked like he was in a trance. Slowly he turned to her, a serious face. You know, Naruto started as Siri blinked before she realized what he was saying. She nodded grimly. They've been gathering anyone with combat experience. Siri started as Naruto sighed. Like him, Siri was almost a Jedi master, of course she would be brought along. He had expected this to happen. They need as many Jedi as possible. Then you know where we are going? Naruto questioned as Siri shook her head. No, they haven't told us where we are going, but it's to a battlefield, isn't it? She questioned. She was stupid. She knew what was on the horizon. Naruto walked toward and grabbed her shoulder. Siri, on the battlefield, look for me. Naruto pleaded as Siri nodded, seriousness all over her face. I will. She answered as she hugged him. The two shared the moment of peace while it lasted, for it would be the last one they would share. They broke the hug after a few minutes with Siri blushing a bit as Naruto grabbed his things. With everything set, Naruto headed out as Siri watched his retreating figure. Be safe, she whispered as she watched him turn the corner, leaving her to her thoughts. She could only hope that she and the others could survive the coming war. But Naruto. This wouldn't have been the first time he had seen war, and it wouldn't be the last time too. As he walked through the hallways of the temple, he looked at the younglings, the Padawans, and the few knights he came across, most of which had little experience in actual combat. He and Kenobi were notable exceptions, and there was little doubt in his mind that Obi-Wan would be promoted to Jedi Master before the war ended. For too many this would be baptism through fire. For many it would be their first battle, and for many it would be their last. He frowned at that though, wanting to say that a battlefield is no place for them, but then he would be called a hypocrite. He had fought in a war when he was just a child. Naruto. Naruto sighed at that familiar. Turning around, he dodged a flying body that would have tackled him otherwise. Ashoka, what have I told you about doing that? Naruto questioned as the said youngling pouted. She had grown quite a bit, but she was still a youngling. A few more years and she would be a Padawan, and off to war she went. He frowned at that thought. She was like a little sister he never had, and the battlefield is the last place he wants her in. Not to. She answered as Naruto chuckled lightly and ruffled her hair, causing her to whine as she tried to swat away his hand. Right, now what are you doing? Naruto was cut off by some shouting behind him. Don't let her get away. He turned to face a few temple guards in pink armor. He blinked at that. Since when did temple guards wear pink armor? Ah. She went that way. One of them shouted, pointing behind Naruto, who turned and sweat dropped. All he could see was the outline of where Ashoka was and where she was presently, running as fast as possible with the temple guards hot on her heels. He chuckled nervously at that. Wonder where she picked that up from. He thought innocently to himself for a moment, only for his mind to wander back. Ahsoka was almost 14. She would likely be thrust into the coming war as someone's Padawan. Naruto hadn't taken on a Padawan learner yet, but with this looming threat, his instinct was to protect Ahsoka, and to do that, he would have to take her on as his Padawan. He would do his best to keep her, and all other Jedi, from having to do as much of the fighting as possible. This was his burden to shoulder. Geonosis. Geonosis was a harsh planet located within the Outer Rim. Home to a bug-like species, the Geonosians. One would simply pass over the planet, as it had nothing to offer in terms of resources. However, recently, the Separatist Alliance, officially known as the Confederacy of Independent Systems, approached the Geonosians to build them an army in secret. The numerous Geonosians proved to be apt laborers, and the droid army was nearly complete. Everything is proceeding as planned, my master. One Count Dooku reported as he bowed to the hologram of a hooded man, whose only feature one could see was his nose and mouth. Good. And what of the prisoners? Dooku's lord questioned as Dooku kept his face down, not meeting the face of his master due to respect and fear. They are alive for now. Dooku answered as his master chuckled slightly. Good, keep them as such. The Senate has just approved the military creation bill, and the Jedi will soon arrive to save them. You know your tasks ahead, no? Dooku's master questioned, causing Dooku to nod. Yes, Lord Sidious. Dooku answered as Sidious nodded before the hologram faded away. Dooku returned back to his normal upright position as he stared at the spot where his master's hologram once stood. When am I paid? Dooku heard a robotic voice. Turning around, he saw a bounty hunter clad in Mandalorian-inspired armor. The bounty hunter's face was hidden from his view due to the helmet. Not only that, but the bounty hunter only knew some basic, nothing too advanced. You will be compensated for your services after this last mission. Dooku answered as the bounty hunter stood there before he turned to leave. This is the last job, I'd better get paid or else. The bounty hunter stated, but before he could even take a single step, he was slowly levitated up a few inches as he tried to claw at his neck, trying to break free of the unseen force choking him. Do not forget who you are talking to, boy. Dooku warned before he let go of the young bounty hunter, who gasped for air while massaging his neck. He quickly stood up and left without saying a word. Dooku huffed as Jango's protege tucked his tail and ran. This kid that Jango had taken on was a remarkable combatant, but he had no capability against the force. In orbit over Coruscant. Naruto sighed as he boarded the shuttle that would lead him to a much larger vessel. Alongside him was his old masters and a few other Jedi masters and a handful of knights. I can sense your apprehension. Is everything alright? Plo Koon questioned his old Padawan. Naruto shook his head. No, nothing was alright. There's a war coming, how can everything be alright? Naruto answered as Plo Koon raised an eyebrow. That's a shocking reaction, considering all the little wars you have been involved in. You used to rush headfirst into battle. Plo Koon stated as Naruto sighed once more. That's the thing, you, me, the other masters and probably a few others have experience with this kind of stuff. Most of them do not. Naruto answered gesturing to the other transports, causing Plo Koon to hum at it. Your concern for the Padawans is understandable, but most of those here are experienced knights or masters. You shouldn't worry about them. Plo Koon questioned as Naruto nodded grimly. The older younglings will soon be pressed into service to fight this war. Probably before they are ready. Naruto stated as Plo nodded at that. Even Master Unduli's Padawan Barris was chosen to be part of the Jedi strike team. It might seem harsh, but they had no choice. The war that would follow, if Dooku escaped, would be fraught on a galactic scale, with many systems fighting against one another. Surely you have more faith in them? Plo questioned as Naruto frowned. I do have faith in them, but war is not about having faith in someone. War cares not for your determination to win. It's all strategy, tactics. All it takes is an intelligent commander to turn the tide of battle. There hasn't been a war on a galactic scale in over 1,000 years. So, I'm not sure anyone in the Republic has enough military minds for a full-scale war. Naruto answered. A small force of a few hundred warriors could defeat a force of 1,000, he had proven that on Naboo and Mandalore, but this was a war between millions of troops. This didn't require short-term tactics like Naruto had studied. It required long-term strategies and meticulous planning, things that Naruto, by his very personality, didn't have a knack for. Then it's a good thing that our enemies have even worse commanders. Plo stated, chuckling. If the reports were true, then the commanders of this droid army would be the various heads of large trading and manufacturing companies, such as the bumbling Newt Gunray of the Trade Federation. He wouldn't be surprised if they even decided to repurpose protocol droids to be tactical supervisors. Naruto kept quiet as the transports jumped into hyperspace, the clock was ticking, and the war was edging ever closer. He could only hope that he was strong enough to take down Dooku. A few hours later. This planet is insufferable. Naruto snarled out as he, along with Mace Windu, walked through the rocky formations of Geonosis. It had been a few hours since the Jedi had touched down on the planet. We're almost there. Windu spoke as the two climbed a few more rocks. Naruto and Windu were taking the hard. Sometimes I get the feeling having your abilities would be quite handy. Windu said with a deadpan expression as he watched Naruto travel up the rocky wall in leaps and bounds, as he was forced to climb it painstakingly slow. Naruto simply shrugged and continued. He might not know much about chakra, but he knew enough about it in order to improve his physical prowess. Climbing a wall of rock such as this was a cakewalk to him. You think they're fine? Naruto lended the Korin Jedi master a help hand onto the catwalk as he alluded to the three whose execution was being treated as a sport. If they're not dead already, they should be fine. Here. Windu pointed at the opening that led into the large Colosseum. The two quickly hurried in as they heard the cheering or whatever those bug-like creatures did. Naruto and Mace exchanged a brief glance of acknowledgement as they parted ways. Naruto traversed the nearest vomitorium and entered the spectator stands of the arena, listening to the roar of the crowd. Naruto's eyes focused on the subject. Looking around, he noticed the 210 Jedi that had hidden themselves amongst the crowd of spectators that failed to notice the small army of Jedi that had blended in effortlessly, thanks to the Force. Every available Jedi that was worth their salt was waiting for the moment to strike. All except for Master Windu, of course. With Dooku. Dooku had thought that everything would go his way, it didn't. He had expected the execution to proceed with ease, except it didn't. Obi-Wan, along with his two other prisoners, had managed to get loose from their chains and managing to hijack one of the beasts. In the end, he had to call in some droids to kill his prisoners. He was unable to give out the order as a purple light radiated behind him. Dooku turned to see, passing right below the neck of Jango Fett, was a purple lightsaber. Master Windu, how good of you to join us. Dooku spoke as the slowly turned around, looking at Windu with a small smile. Jango wasn't your average bounty hunter. The man was known as one of the best bounty hunters out there. This party's over. Windu spoke, causing the Count to divert his attention back to him. All around the arena, Jedis emerged from their cover, lightsaber in hand. Naruto's ghostfire crystal ignited with a sharp snap hiss before calming down to a still hum. I must commend you, my old friend, brave but foolish. You're impossibly outnumbered. Dooku stated the fact, causing Windu to smirk. Oh, I don't think so. Windu replied, causing Dooku to raise an eyebrow before he let out a small chuckle. We'll see. He stated with a smirk as the sound of metal marching was heard from the hallway behind them. Windu glanced back to see four large and metallic-looking battle droids who aimed their wrist blasters at the dark-skinned Jedi master. This caused Windu to focus on the incoming barrage of laser bolts as Dooku and his bounty hunter quickly moved to the side. Jango took this opportunity and used his flamethrower, causing Windu to do a backflip and landing in the arena. Jango looked towards Dooku, who nodded, and Fett activated his jetpack, following right behind the Jedi master. With Naruto. Naruto leapt from the stands and joined his fellow Jedi as he stood up with slight tingling sensation in the hand he used to catch himself, but he was quickly forced to go on the defensive as battle droids were all over him. Thankfully, they were all mindless droids, making them easier to cut down. Those look new. Naruto commented before a dozen of the so-called super battle droids leveled their wrist blasters and let loose a rain of fire towards him. All the gates of the arena opened up and like a flood, hundreds, if not thousands of droids poured into the arena, forcing the Jedis to go on the defensive. Naruto quickly spun his saber, deflecting the enemy fire and destroying some of the droids. He then went on the offensive, cutting down droids after droid. Form a perimeter, don't get separated. Windu yelled as he cut down a few droids, but more kept coming. He used a force and threw back a bunch of droids into each other. Siri meanwhile was trying to find Naruto in the chaos of the battle. There. she said to herself as she brought her saber behind her, deflecting back a bolt from one of the droids. Thinking quickly, she started to make her way to Naruto, jumping over a few droids while cutting down some Geonosian warriors. She landed right behind Naruto, who turned with his saber ready to strike, but halted as he saw Siri. He was going to say something, but the droids were overwhelming them, causing he and Siri to fight back to back. "You're a bit late," Naruto said as he deflected some fire before sending a strong force push, crushing some of the droids. "Yeah, well, you weren't early either," Siri responded as she threw her violet saber into a crowd of droids, cutting multiple droids before pulling her spinning saber back with the force and catching it just in time to slash 2 super battle droids in half. The two fought on, side by side, back to back for quite a while, as evident by the piles of droids that surrounded the two. "Siri, catch," Naruto stated as he threw his saber. Catching his saber, she started to dual wield. Naruto pulled his blaster up and started to fire away at the droids, while Siri covered him with the 2 sabers. Narrowing his eyes, Naruto let loose a volley of blaster fire, bringing down more than 24 droids. "I really like this thing," Naruto said with a chuckle as Siri tossed him his saber back, once again cutting down droids. As the two fought, they got a glimpse of green sparks frying nearly 100 droids. "Was that Master Plo Koon's special technique?" Sir questioned as she ducked while Naruto threw his saber over her head, cutting a few droids. "Yeah, that was electric judgment. It's probably really effective against these droids, considering the electricity and all," Naruto answered. Looking around, he spotted Kenobi fighting one of the beasts, and Master Windu was locked in a fierce duel with the bounty hunter Fett. All around him was chaos, and he could notice that some of the less experienced knights were having trouble fighting against the swarm of droids. More than a dozen Jedi had already been killed, overwhelmed by the relentless barrage of blaster fire. "Siri, go and help the others. I have an idea," Naruto ordered her to, which was as about to protest, but as she turned to look at him, she could tell he was up to something. "Got it." She complied as she quickly leapt into the air before landing on a battle droid and resuming her assault, leaving Naruto to his plan. He quickly closed his eyes and began to meditate. "Focus," Naruto thought to himself as he took in a deep breath, allowing himself to become one with the force, to become in perfect sync with it. As he did so, battle droids kept on firing as they walked closer and closer to him, before they halted their advance and kept on firing, their blaster bolts whizzing by him. They kept on firing, only this time the lasers spotted right before they hit Naruto, as if they were frozen in midair. "Hold your fire. I said hold your fire," one of the droids ordered, but alas, his fellow droids didn't listen as they kept on firing. "I've got a bad feeling about this," the droid said to itself as he started to back away. Right at that moment, Naruto's eyes shot open, sending all the blaster fire back at the droids, bring quite a few of them down. "Right, let's get to work," Naruto said to himself as he went on the defensive. Even though he was able to use battle meditation on the move, it severely hindered his ability to focus on a different task. With Dooku, Coleman Treber felt a sudden surge in the force. Feeling confident, the Vrak Jedi Master leapt from the Petranaki arena into the spectator stands above. He brandished his green lightsaber and readied himself to cut down his former Jedi comrade, but before he could strike, sudden pain welled up from his chest. The Mandalorian bounty hunter behind Dooku had brandished a very expensive-looking blaster and had shot him in the chest several times. Treber faded into unconsciousness, and he tumbled over the balcony railing and careened back into the arena from which he had leapt, his lifeless body marking the first Jedi Master to die in the battle. Jango's protege holstered his blaster silently as Dooku smirked. This boy was good, even better than his teacher, maybe. It was a shame he was some bounty hunter scum that only worked for money instead of principles. However, couldn't help but Dooku take notice that many of the Jedi, previously struggling, were now managing to hold their own against the waves of droids. Even some of the younger ones too. Looking down below, he saw how they were slowly pushing forward, the droids being nearly useless, and the Geonosians even totally so. Master Kit Fisto had made it a priority to take out all of their weapon emplacements. The caste system wasn't too kind to the low-born of the Geonosians, and they were being cut down rather quickly. Dooku's frown turned into a slight scowl as he noticed the Jedi were no longer only holding their own, but winning. He scanned the battlefield, seeing many faces that he knew were younglings even just 10 years ago. Most of these Jedi shouldn't ready for a battle such as this, yet they were holding strong and taking far fewer losses. Only about a quarter of the Jedi had fallen. Had they really improved so much so quickly, and only the weaker ones had been cut down? Then a wave of dread washed over him. He began to sweat and almost choked as he felt the raw power of the Force. Battle meditation. Dooku thought as his eyes scanned the battlefield. Only a very few knew how to use that ability. Not more than a few dozen in the order. Looking down below, he saw no Jedi sitting and meditating. As expected, that kind of technique would be a death sentence on the battlefield. That narrowed his sights on the one person he'd heard of being able to use it on the move, Naruto Uzumaki. "Boy." Deku suddenly spoke up. "I need you to kill him." The armor-clad man heard as he turned to look at the Count, who looked at the bounty hunter with a stern face. The bounty hunter had thus far only observed the battle beside the Count after Django had jumped down to fight Windu. That boy has a unique GD ability known as battle meditation. If he's not snapped out of it soon enough, the GD will rally. He's going to be more trouble than he's worth. I want you to kill him now, before the situation gets out of hand. The Count singled out the blonde-haired knight that he had met on a few occasions before. Doing as ordered, as the bounty hunter looked at the Count before he slowly nodded, jumping down into the arena, which was in total chaos as battle droids swarmed the rallying GD. Wave after wave being cut down by saber swipes and reflected blaster bolts. Deku tried hard to keep his expression in check, but his face betrayed his thoughts with a stern frown. In the arena. Naruto was about to lend aid to some of the GD, but found his path blocked as the same bounty hunter from Pantora jumped in front of him. Naruto narrowed his eyes before he charged at the bounty hunter. As Naruto raised his saber to strike down the bounty hunter, the man brought up his blade and blocked Naruto's strike with ease. Naruto growled as he found himself on the defensive, trying to parry the incoming strikes, as well as the endless onslaught of blaster fire. Having to focus on battle meditation wasn't helping him at all. In fact, it was working against him. He'd had trouble with this bounty hunter even without distractions hindering him. Naruto fumbled his saber work and he was punished by a sweeping strike that tore into his flesh. Battle meditation is supposedly only able to be performed while the user is completely immobile, requiring the user's undivided attention. The fact that he can maintain it while holding his ground is truly amazing. Master Sidious, I may have a new apprentice for us. Deku thought as he observed the fight between Naruto and the bounty hunter. He knew how battle meditation worked and it's a pity he wasn't capable of using it himself. Naruto was only 25, but his usage of battle meditation went beyond any GD master or of any Force sensitive in all of history. If a boy like that took to the battlefield with an entire clone legion, it would pose a significant problem. Damn it, Naruto wiped away a bit of blood from the fresh gash on his arm thanks to the bounty hunter. This was getting out of hand. Unlike their fight aboard the transport, the damn bastard could simply use his jetpack to fall back every time he got close. Naruto's gaze wandered to the balcony where his eyes met Deku's death stare. So all Deku is singling me out, huh? Naruto quipped. And now he was in a dilemma, he couldn't keep battle meditation going, or else he would most definitely die, and in that case, he couldn't keep it up anyways. Naruto frowned and spat out a curse before he broke his concentration. The bounty hunter was the more immediate threat. You're not getting away this time. Naruto growled out as he started to set attack after attack. Amazingly, the bounty hunter was keeping up, but it was clearly that he was unable to withstand the speed of Naruto's Form IV strikes. Naruto couldn't help but let a smirk through. Sure, this guy can move around with his jetpack now, but on the other hand, I'm free to use Form IV in an open arena like this. Naruto quickly realized that the trade was not an even one as he began to overpower the bounty hunter, who was still using something akin to Form 2. It became more apparent as the bounty hunter began to stumble back as Naruto quickly spun around and tried to slice off the bounty hunter's head, only for the bounty hunter to lean back just enough to save him, but it wasn't enough. Naruto's saber managed to graze the bounty hunter's visor, causing shards of hot molten metal to fall onto the bounty hunter's face. God damn it. The bounty hunter cursed loudly in pain as he struggled to open his left eye, revealing it to be blood red with 3 strange black dots circling around the pupil. Those were some freaky eyes. The long vertical scar over the boy's eye didn't calm his frightening visage, that wasn't something he had caused. Naruto took notice that his opponent sounded rather young. Charging forward once more, the bounty hunter dodged his strikes even more he could see them, it was as if he was able to see his movement prior to the attack. Once more the bounty hunter tried to use his jetpack to fall back, only for Naruto to smirk before using the force and pulling the bounty hunter back towards him. Not this time. Naruto commented, his saber ready to go through the Mandalorian warrior's chest and would have if it wasn't for the barrage of blaster fire he had to dodge. Rolling over to the side, Naruto used his legs to jump forward towards his target, still recovering from being force pulled into the ground, only for his strike to be blocked once more. Why won't you just die already? Naruto shouted in frustration. Why was it so hard to kill a simple bounty hunter? Not even realizing it, Naruto began to search through the force to find more strength to defeat this guy. But the only strength available to him was the power of the 9 tails, and Kurama was more than willing to lend it to him. Naruto's whiskers slightly darkened and his nails grew a bit. The small injection of the fox's power was enough to make Naruto's next strike completely shatter his opponent's defense. The bounty hunter tried to block, and when he managed to get good enough footing to parry, dust was kicked up from the shockwave of Naruto's strikes. Not only were his strikes stronger, they were getting faster, too fast for the bounty hunter. With one final strike, Naruto managed to stumble the man back, causing him to trip and lose grip on his sword. Looking around, he noticed that the Jedis began to lose ground, and probably twice as many of the knights and masters had fallen in the short time, even a few of the Jedi had also praised in battle. Shaking his head, he quickly moved in for the final strike. He needed to end this right now and re-engage battle meditation before long, but as he was about to deliver the final strike, he was thrown away by the raging reek. Naruto grunted as he stood back up, turning look at the beast, only for his eyes to widen. There sat Padme, the raging beast, kissing Anakin on the cheek. What? He thought. Was this an illusion? No, this was very real, even if he wished it wasn't. Kurama started roaring with laughter. Looks like you were fooled by that wench. The fox shouted in his mind with joy, ready to tempt Naruto to give in and surrender to his power even more, but Naruto shook his head, more resolved than before. No, this was a good thing. This development brought him relief. It meant that it was never his fault. It wasn't anything he did that caused her to break it off, she was the one who did it. In that moment, he had a sense of clarity. Even though Anakin had stolen away the love of his life and Padme betrayed his trust, he was in a battlefield. His whiskers thinned and his red eyes faded back to their baby blue. And with all doubts washed away from him, he went on the offensive against the bounty hunter, Form IV at the ready. But it was his opponent who made the first strike, using his jetpack to flip over Naruto and strike from above. Naruto parried the surprising blow and exchanged blows with the bounty hunter, who began swinging his blade in wide arcs and broad strokes, reminiscent of Form IV. Naruto couldn't help but do a double take, taken aback by the realization. Was this son of a bitch copying him? The nerve of this guy. He was using his jetpack as a substitute for the force jumps required and had started using Form IV cadences just from watching Naruto fight with it. Was this bastard mocking him? Naruto was snapped out of his stupor by the vibroblade clashing against his ghostfire saber. Naruto parried the blow using a technique he borrowed from Form V and resumed the battle. This guy might have learned his moves, but he was no Jedi, and when he again leapt into the air with his jetpack, Naruto was ready to punish him for his arrogance. Jumping backwards into the air, Naruto avoided the incoming blade and did a front flip. At the end of his arc, he landed a heavy kick into the back of his opponent, sending his vibrosword flying out of his hands and slamming him heavily into the ground. Just because you can learn my techniques doesn't mean you can perform them right. Unlike Naruto, this guy's speed wasn't enhanced by the force, and so despite his unnatural ability to learn things on the fly, he couldn't keep up with the speed requirements to perform the acrobatic maneuvers of Form IV. Who are you? Naruto roared during his force-enhanced dash. He got no response as the bounty hunter hurriedly pulled out his blaster and began to fire rapidly at Naruto, forcing him on the defensive. Damn, he's really got quite the aim with that thing. Naruto thought as he spun his saber, deflecting the incoming fire while moving up at a decent speed. Once he was close enough, he quickly jumped up, landing behind the bounty hunter. Quickly turning around, Naruto slashed at him, cutting through the jetpack as the bounty hunter rolled forward to grab his vibrosword. Not so mobile now, are you? Naruto taunted as the bounty hunter narrowed his visible eye behind his helmet as he crouched down on all fours, firing the rocket he had stored on his jetpack. Naruto's eyes widened as he had to jump to the side to avoid the rocket. The rocket exploded, instantly killing two nearby Jedi and launching Naruto and a handful of others nearly a dozen feet back. Stumbling up with a new gash leaking blood from his forehead, Naruto found that he also had a very serious wound on his abdomen. Coughing up some blood as the bounty hunter rushed towards him, his vibrosword in hand. Now you die, Jedi. The bounty hunter spoke as he stumbled towards Naruto back. As he raised his sword to strike down Naruto, Naruto quickly turned towards the bounty hunter, focusing a tremendous of chakra into his hand and slammed his empowered fist into the stomach of the bounty hunter. The man's eye widened in shock at the force of the blow, launching him back all the way across the arena and crashing into the stands. It was safe to say that he was out of battle for now. As Naruto panted, Siri quickly rushed to him and engulfed him in a tight hug. You okay? Siri asked softly as she kept him in the embrace. Yeah. You can let go now. Naruto winced in pain as Siri blushed in embarrassment and quickly let go. Naruto wobbled a bit but quickly found his balance and sighed. He coughed up even more blood as he noticed a shard of rock had lodged itself into his stomach. Let me take care of that. Siri offered as she pulled out a medical kit from her belted red jumpsuit and quickly removed the shard of rock. Naruto fell to his knees and almost passed out from the pain but managed to keep his wits about him. We're suffering heavy casualties. He heard his companion say through the days as she treated his wounds and deflected a few stray blaster bolts at the same time. His eyes wandered the arena, his fellow Jedi being shot down in heaps. They were simply being overwhelmed by the sheer number of battle droids. Siri had to stand up to deflect a handful of bolts back at droids before she turned back to resume work on Naruto. But it seemed all for nothing, for just as soon as she reached for Naruto, more blaster fire came their way. Naruto raised his saber to deflect what he could, but he couldn't cover Siri from his kneeling position, who had a glancing bolt singe her shoulder. Naruto was about to stand up and simply deal with having a gaping wound in his stomach for the rest of the battle, but a blue lightsaber blocked the incoming fire, and a quick volley of blaster bolts took care of the offending droids. Naruto looked up to see two familiar faces. "It seemed like you were having some trouble," he heard Skywalker say as he fought back the droids heading their way, with Padme firing a blaster from behind the cover of his saber. Siri doubled her focus on treating Naruto with the two covering them. Naruto felt the familiar sting of a coagulant stop the bleeding in his abdomen. "Thanks, Siri." Naruto thanked her as she nodded, glad he was okay. With the bleeding stopped, Naruto once again focused on his battle mediation. Morale again swelled among the Jedi, but alas, Naruto could see the battle was already over. It was too late and too many Jedi had fallen. It was only a matter of time until the droids would overwhelm their defenses. If that was to be their fate, they would at least take out as many droids as he possibly could. Naruto quickly jumped into the middle of the fight against Siri's wishes, deflecting blaster fire that was headed towards his former master, Plo Koon. Siri too jumped into the fray as the droids kept on coming. They were being boxed in as more and more droids flooded into the arena. As they were boxed into a circle in the center of the arena, the droids came to a halt and lowered their blasters. Naruto released a breath he didn't know he was holding as he kept his guard up. In orbit. While the battle raged on down below at the planet, high in the orbit of the rocky planet, a fleet of large transports exited from hyperspace. There were quite a few of them, around 24, and all of them bore the mark of the Republic. "Master Yoda, we have arrived." "Orders." A trooper, clad in white armor with gold chevrons, inquired Master Yoda as the said Grand Master observed the planet before him. "Begin landing the main force, you should. Lead a group to save the Jedi, I will." Yoda answered as he turned around and hobbled to the hangar of the large transport. "You heard the general. Sergeant, get those troopers into the gunships." The clone commander shouted. As he did, Yoda watched the clones ready for themselves for their inaugural battle. Back on the ground. Naruto narrowed his eyes as he danced around the arena cutting down droids. He growled as one of the Geonosians shouted with guttural glee next to him. "Master Windu, you have fought gallantly." Dooku's voice echoed throughout the Petranaki arena as they looked up towards the gallery where Dooku stood. Windu kept his cool as he looked around and saw that of the 210 Jedi that had first landed, there were maybe about 100 or so that had managed to hold their ground and stay alive. Worthy of recognition in the archives of the Jedi Order. Dooku continued as Naruto narrowed his eyes, watching the droids herd the defeated Jedi into the center of the arena as the count continued his short monologue. Dooku was surprised just how many Jedi had managed to survive the onslaught. His master had only wanted a handful, at most a quarter of the Jedi to remain, but here he was staring at nearly half the Jedi brought alive and well. "Now, it is finished. Surrender and your lives will be spared." Dooku offered as Naruto had enough at that point. "We will not be your hostages to be bartered, Dooku." Mace Windu spoke as Dooku frowned at that, disappointed by their choice. "Then I'm sorry, my old friend." Dooku stated as the droids readied their blasters. The Jedi tensed up, their lightsabers at the ready. He was somewhat saddened by his former comrade's decision, but alas, he gave the order. Dooku was broken out of his thoughts as he heard the roar of engines from above. "Look!" Padme exclaimed as everyone turned their heads to the skies above. Large warships flew over the arena, with gunships descending into the arena and attacking the droids. The gunships descended into the arena in a blaze of glory, their composite beam lasers ripping the droids to ribbons. Dooku only caught a glimpse of Yoda, who was observing the battle from aboard one of the gunships. "Around the survivors, a perimeter, create." Yoda ordered as gunships swooped in, forming a circle around the Jedi. The main gunner fired green high-powered laser cannons at the droids, cutting right through them. Some of the gunships were hitting the heads of the droids as they moved around closer to the ground. Soldiers clad in white armor jumped out of the gunships and started to provide covering fire for the Jedi, who began to board the gunships. Naruto's instincts kicked in, and he began to cover their escape as well. As he did so, he began to retreat towards the gunships. He wasn't about to give his life for nothing with the opportunity to escape. It was quickly apparent that the clones had brought too few gunships, and so they had to take off with the first group of Jedi aboard. A dozen more clone troopers descended into the arena with a fresh set of gunships. The remaining Jedi wasted no time as they began to board the gunships as the troopers covered them. Naruto however stayed behind, making sure everyone was on board as he became the center of focus for the droids. "Come on, Naruto." He heard Siri as the gunships began to hover. Seeing that everyone was on board, Naruto jumped and did a backflip, landing inside the gunship as Siri's eyebrow twitched. "Show off." she commented as Naruto flashed her a grin, causing her to scoff sarcastically and look away. Excellent work, Master Naruto. Thanks to you, a great many Jedi saved today they were. Of that, I do not doubt. Naruto heard a voice from beside him, which he immediately recognized as Master Yoda's. Taking a minute to adjust to his surroundings, he noticed Masters Windu and Mundi had boarded Yoda's gunship along with him and Siri. Thank you, Master Yoda. Naruto responded courteously. But I'm only doing what comes natural to me. Naruto then turned back to look at the battlefield ahead as multiple large transport ships landed to unload tens of thousands of clones. However, he was taken out of his thoughts as the gunship's IM-6 medical droid began poking and prodding him to treat his wounds for the upcoming battle. Goku could only look on with a frown. Even though this was all part of the plan, he was unable to inflict the amount of losses on the Jedi he had hoped. Still, he had achieved his objective. It was time to leave. Off in the stands, the bounty hunter grunted in pain as he sat up, fixing his helmet. Looking around, he saw the gunships decimating the droids as they covered for the Jedis. Damn it. His body was in pain and he was bleeding from the mouth thanks to the gut punch he had received. Looked down in the arena and frowned as he spotted the decapitate body of one Jango Fett. Giving out a deep huff, the bounty hunter only briefly lamented the death of his teacher. He was more saddened by the sight of his son Boba clenching his father's helmet. Goku probably thought he was dead along with Jango, too. No point in staying and fighting for someone who wasn't going to pay a man he thought dead. He coughed up a bit more blood as he wobbled out of the arena to where his ship was located. Boba. He spoke, snapping the young boy's attention towards him. Salvage what you can and then meet me back at our ships. You'll have to pilot Slave Eye. You can do it, right? Boba nodded, tears lightly streaming from his eyes. Acknowledging Boba's reply, he continued dragging his feet towards the exit. He was done with this fight and done with Dooku's bullshit missions. He hadn't been punched that hard in quite some time, and he wasn't about to go into a battle unprepared like that again. No way he could take on a powerful force user like that blonde, especially not while injured. He would have to get stronger. End chapter. So this part ends here. If you want to see next part of this series, like the video now and share the story with your friends. Bye bye.